We will be reserving the last 20 minutes of tonight's presentation for Q&A. You can submit your questions via the Q&A option at the bottom of your screen. The presentation is scheduled for 90 minutes, which will include the Q&A at the end. The presentation will also be recorded and hosted on Sonoma Lantra's YouTube page in the next few days. Sonoma Lantra's mission is to protect the natural lands of Sonoma County for everyone's benefit. Founded in 1976, Sonoma Land Trust has helped protect over 50,000 acres to date. Thank you so much for joining us today. We have Bonnie Brown, a citizen scientist that works to study and preserve the monarch butterflies. Her experience is firsthand on the ground. The monarch pollinator garden is in its third year. Her and the other two people she works with are dedicated to help create a superhighway of pollinator gardens throughout Sonoma Valley and beyond. They have tours of the garden, are involved with local initiatives to support pollinators, and advise others in creating their pollinator gardens. Bonnie is an organic gardener, past president of the Valley of the Moon Garden Club, and a retired owner and designer of an architectural etched glass business. We also have Abraham Solad with us today, who was born in the city of Mexico and moved to Novato, California when he was 19, eventually moving his parents and siblings from Mexico to Rohnert Park. He studied culinary arts and managed a kitchen in Novato for over 10 years. In search of a meaningful life, Abraham began volunteering to work for the Latino youth of St. Vincent de Paul Church in Petaluma. He supervised the religious education Spanish program and visited the 4 convalescent homes on the west side of Petaluma, which inspired him to work with the community. He began working for St. Vincent de Paul Parish in 1996, organizing the Spanish-speaking part of the parish and outreach work to many Latino families in Petaluma. He worked on social issues in favor of minority families, such as obtaining a driver's license, gang prevention, Proposition 187, designating Petaluma as a sanctuary city, and on immigration issues. In the year 2000, Margie Helm invited him to work in organizing the Dia De Los Muertos Petaluma, drawing many people from around the Bay Area yearly to celebrate the life of those who have departed ahead of us. Through different cultural events with music, dance, art, food, and people, we honor their presence. Then in 2009, Abraham, with some members of Latino church youth group founded by Ballet Folklorico at Petaluma, Paquiyolotzin, meaning joyful heart in the Nahuatl language. Abraham won Petaluma Citizen of the Year in 2017. As he continues to seek living a fulfilling life, he continues to work with St. Vincent's Church's Spanish-speaking community, focusing more on helping educate families on strategies to generate more income, become properly protected, debt-free, and achieve financial independence under one of the largest financial companies of North America. Thank you both for joining us today. Abraham, we'd love to hear about the tradition of Dia de los Muertos.
Thank you, Mireya. Let me share my screen. And thank you, everyone, and welcome. Yes, this year would have been the 20th anniversary of El Dia de los Muertos, and but for the last 2 years we have been challenged with the fires, and this year 2020 with COVID-19. So, but nevertheless, the many families in Petaluma and Sonoma County celebrate El Dia de los Muertos, and more families now celebrate their loved ones in their homes in all over California and other parts of the United States, because it's a great celebration to include in the family. It takes away the negative impact of the death, which brings sorrow and sadness to the family. But the Day of the Dead celebration, it's about celebrating the life, and that's what we do. We celebrate the life of the loved ones, of our loved ones who have come before us and departed before us, and but we still believe that they're part of us, they're part of life. And thank you for the invitation, for Sonoma Land Trust, for having this opportunity of sharing about the tradition. And then let me share my screen. So el Dia de los Muertos, as Mireya mentioned, was founded, created when Margie Helm came to me at St. Vincent's, and she was asking for who created the altar at St. Vincent de Paul Church, and I did, and I told her, and she said that, yeah, would you like to bring that tradition, that celebration to the community? And I said, sure, why not? And the monarch butterflies, the legend of the purépechas, indigenous culture of Michoacan, and also there's the state of Mexico, the closest state of Mexico. They believe, the legend says that the spirits of our ancestors or loved ones who have departed, they travel. They travel in the wings of the monarch, and they go back and forth from their spiritual world, come back every year to share the life again with the loved ones. And that is what we celebrate in Petaluma, and it's that symbol of the butterfly that brings the life of our spiritual of the spirit of our ancestors. And in Petaluma, we honor our loved ones, and many families have joined that tradition because of it brings love to the community. And who doesn't have anybody who a family member, a friend, even a pet, that you love so much, and just by the regular journey of life went before. And in the book of the seat of the soul, the author talks about the spirit, the soul of a person has a very meaningful task in life, and that we should pay close attention of what we intend to do in life, because our soul has a special task to do in life. And with the tradition of El Dia de los Muertos in Petaluma, I would say that that the soul of Trey Atkins, the son of Margie Helm, who invited me to start celebrating the Day of the Dead celebration. Even though he lost his life at a young age, I think his task of Trey was to ignite the life of many people in the community of Petaluma and around the Sonoma County. And thanks to the life of Trey, which every year and every time and every day is still a part of life, this wonderful celebration of El Dia de los Muertos Petaluma and the love of his mother started this celebration, because the celebration is about love, it's about community. That's Margie and his husband Chip. It's on the left side. That was the second year of Dia de los Muertos, and on that celebration, there was a Gloria McAllister with a group of women. They made 2,000 tamales because the celebration is about people, food, love, music, and talent, and sharing that. It's very important. You have a celebration, and that day we were by the Petaluma City Hall, and people were buying the delicious tamales, but my friend Gloria, with other women, they made 2,000 tamales. That was a big hit, but it was a lot of work. But it was a bittersweet beginning, but then it has turned out into something very beautiful for the community of Petaluma. And we honor the dead, and we borrow some of the traditional elements of the celebration in Mexico and Mesoamerica, of creating the altars. Uh, just like the Aztec uh, culture also celebrated their ancestors, and they created their own altars. And you see in the pictures photos of the cemetery, and that's in Mexico. And on the right we have an altar, and then we have those two kids. They're already teenagers, but because it has this tradition of El Dia de los Muertos is already 20 years old. So the kids that started and they were 5, they're already 25. They're already millennials. So it's with a great emotion that we have families creating now or having a tradition now as part of their own history. And of course, always we the Mexican cultures uh, are very playful with the symbol of the dead, with the skull, la Catrina, or give it a special character, but it's always mocking the dead. And as that's a picture in Petaluma on Kentucky Street. Many people gathered, and that's in 2016. Uh, but the fam- Anglo families are creating this tradition for their kids, and it's changing the culture of of how we see that, and we don't see it anymore as something that's scary. We see it as something as part of life, and because we celebrate the life, and we celebrate the legacy that our ancestors have left in us. They're still part of us because they taught us different things. And one of the elements in the Dia de los Muertos celebration in Petaluma is the altars. So we ask people to create altars at their home. When there was no fires, no COVID, we asked the business around downtown to lend us a window, and we connected the business and the family so that they could create an altar, and people would see them, and we would keep those altars like from the middle of October all the way to November 4 or November 7. But that's a very important element of El Dia de los Muertos Petaluma. As you could see, these little kids, they're already beginning to embrace this celebration, and they see it as something fun. It's something to enjoy. It's a family event. It's not scary. It's not sadness. There's no sadness. There is love, and young people have brought their talents. We have music. We have dance. We have every person has something to share, and that's why we celebrate in the Dia de los Muertos. We celebrate the like Wayne Dyer said, everybody has some music inside, and we cannot die with the music inside of us without sharing. So everybody has something important to share. And like a little seed, a little seed cannot die as a seed. A little seed has a purpose to become a tree, and in that tree, the birds can build their nest. So in the Day of the Dead, we celebrate all the talent, the love, and the different purposes of many people that come before us and they have gone before us. So we definitely enjoy music, uh, smiles, people who are here and then suddenly they're not here anymore. That's on the left. That's my friend. He was just run over by a drunk man last September 22nd. And one moment you're here, and the next one you're not. So this celebration of El Dia de los Muertos this year has an altar for Mario, who is from the Mayan community, and you can see that altar in the Peraluma Art Center. It's something very touchy, but you do that. You celebrate the love that the people who came with you or share the life with you. You celebrate that, and many Anglo families are making that this celebration as part of their family, and always bringing the kids so that they learn, and especially during this year, we sometimes have become angry, and the COVID has spread us apart, and we need moments to continue to socialize, to keep our mind healthy and our heart healthy. And the celebration of El Dia de los Muertos has always allowed that, the sharing and to interact with one another. And it's a very important part of our celebration that we always encourage people to do, because you create an altar, another family creates an altar, and then or just come to the Perluma Art Center or the museum, and then you come and start looking at the altars, and then you connect. You start talking, and it's people that you don't know, but then you start building relationships, and that's one of the essential purposes of El Dia de los Muertos Pereluma, that through the share of your love of your ancestors, you come and connect with people. And if you have talents, if you know music, if you have some artistic talent, you paint, you create crafts, you come and share it, and because that's part of what you are and what you become. That's your music that you share, that you come to this life to share. And in the celebration of El Dia de los Muertos, it's always very important, the uh, the altar, because not only it's a piece of art, but it is always uh, expression of the love. And there are some special elements, and I'm going to show you a little video of what the celebration looks like on the final procession, the candlelight procession. But I before that, I want to show you the some elements that you can put in your altar, and because they're part of the tradition. And behind me, of course you have to have a picture of your ancestors. I have photos of my grandparents, of my wife's grandma. This is my dad, who passed away in 2015. You have to have Candles. This is the light of the spiritual light, and sugar skulls. You always can buy them or make them with the meringue powder and a little water and sugar, and or you can buy them. They, you can buy them. They're made out of chocolate uh, or gummy in Mexico or seeds. You have pan de muerto. That was and these are shape of bones, and then they sometimes they have a little ball, meaning that's a symbol of the head. And you always have pan de muerto because it's always good with hot chocolate or with coffee or whatever your loved one love to drink. You put a mirror on the altar because on the big journey of the from the living from the dead to the living, it's a long way. So they have to look good for us. So we put water on the altar so that they can have a little time for grooming, and an altar so that they comb their hair or they look good. You can put a cross if you are Christian, or you can put a symbol of your religious, and you can put the skulls. You can put the Loteria Mexicana or different games that your loved one used to play. And I put here some coffee because my grandma used to love little coffee at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And you put the cempasúchil flowers. The cempasúchil flowers. Uh, this is a very colorful flower. It's called the flower of the 20 petals, and this symbolizes with the color the sun. The sun is bright, always bright, and always many petals, and the aroma is very good. Always the aroma is important to have in your altar. And sometimes in Mexico, you put the petals of the marigold from the cemetery where you have your gravesite of your loved one. Put petals all the way to your house. That way, your loved one knows where to go for the delicious meal or food that you have prepared. You can, if your loved one loves Kentucky Fried Chicken, you put a box of Kentucky Fried Chicken. If they like In and Out, put an In and Out burger. If they like to drink tequila, yeah, you put like my dad. My dad learned from his dad, from my grandfather. They used to drink the shot of tequila before dinner. So that was a tradition. So I put uh, the tequila, and then also for the marigold. So I don't put it. You if you smell it, it's strong smell that goes. All the tradition says that it goes all the way to the spiritual world, so that the ancestors, our loved ones, know where to come. And also, you can put copal incense and you light it, and all that's a spiritual element that goes all the way to the spiritual world, and it calls your ancestors. It's time to come and share the living, and it is very important that you create those elements on the altar. You can put some salt also. I forgot. There is salt because there is a little flesh for the dead, and they want to preserve it, so they you put the salt. And also in some parts of Mexico, the culture says that you put a little rug so that they have a little space to rest from the long journey. And in the Aztec culture, the dog, the solo squinkle, the squinkle, they call it for short, squinkle. It's a little dog. It looks like a shaven rat. It doesn't look very good looking dog, but still people like those dogs, and they call it solo squinkles. And the solo squinkle, the legend says that they help the dead to reach the spiritual world, cross a long river, and then also bring them back so that they get lost. So the Xoloscuincle accompanies our loved ones always. So that's why if you see some dogs, ugly dogs, they have their purpose also in life. So uh, you can also decorate a skull for somebody who is living, and that's not an insult. They're not wishing you were dead, not at all. It's they're honoring you, and if they give you a dark chocolate sugar skull, that would be very tasty. I like the ones with dark chocolate with marshmallows inside. Those are very, very, very good. Or the gummy ones. So in the schools in Mexico, you exchange sugar skulls like you exchange gifts for Christmas. So it's a fun thing. So let me just gonna show you the celebration of the candlelight procession, and also how the our altars in the Peraluma Art Center look like. And thank you to Israel Escudero. He's a part of the committee, and he has helped us curate the exhibit of El Dia de los Muertos celebration at the Peraluma Art Centers, 230 Lakeville Avenue. And Gloria McAllister and Margot, they help us also create the Dia de los Muertos celebration this year. And many people also help us create those ofrendas. Mujeres Unidas, there is the Black Lives Matter altar, two traditional altars, and then the one from the Mayan community to Mario. And then we have a big community altar, and that you are welcome to come on Saturday at 11 o'clock from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. And on Sunday, you can come also. We're going to have the Ballet Folclórico Paquilloyotzin. The Ballet Folclórico started in 2009, and they dance beautifully. Little kids, teenagers, and then the parents of the kids. So it's a very fun celebration. So let me share my screen for the video. That dance is called Los Diablos, and the tradition says that everybody has a good and evil side, and sometimes the evil side is a fun side, but you don't let it uh, out so often. So that's I'm just going to end up with the little bit of what the Petaluma Art Center looks like right now for the with the 2020 exhibit, and that's you can see that on Saturday or Sunday this week. That is the community altar.
Abraham, we can't see your screen if you're sharing
Oh,
it.
okay, hold on. Let me. Those are the different images from the different years, from the 20 years that we have. That's the Black Lives Matter altar. It's so sad to see many young lives. You can bring your photographs of the people you want to honor, and then leave them there and put your name and phone number so that when we take down the exhibit, we can call you and to pick them up. So you can see the different elements of the altar: the skulls, the flowers, the candles, papel picado, marigolds, and the Catrina. That's what the ballet folklorico with COVID. They had to dance with the mask. That we have a little opening celebration for the exhibit on October 17. So that's kind of more or less what you're gonna see if you come on Sunday. Don't forget to wear your mask and keep your distance. One of our dancers made the front cover of the Argus Courier, and the article says the new way to celebrate the holidays. And of course, it says, "Don't forget me." And thank you very much. This is all I have to share. Thank you for the invitation, and it's an honor to be here sharing our tradition of el Dia de los Muertos. Thank you, Mireya.
Thank you, Abraham. Thank you for providing us a place to still be able to participate in Dia de los Muertos this year and doing it safely with COVID, through COVID as well. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next, we'll have Bonnie, who will be sharing on the beautiful monarch butterfly. As Abraham mentioned, the monarch butterfly is connected with Dia de los Muertos. Bonnie, thank you for joining us tonight and sharing about the monarch butterfly.
You're very welcome. And thank you to Sonoma Land Trust for giving us this presentation. Abraham, I'm loving Dia De Los Muertos even more now. So every fall by November, millions of monarch butterflies have made a long migration of several generations to the winter homes of their ancestors in the states of Mexico and Michoacan in Mexico. Next. Corby, yeah. Dia de los Muertos. They migrate to central Mexico to winter over next from November through February, clustering in groves of trees as their ancestors did the year before, sometimes in the same grove. Their migration is at the same time as Dia de los Muertos, when people welcome their departed ancestors home. So next, during Dia de los Muertos, the butterflies are believed to be the spirits of their deceased loved ones returning home. The many migrations of monarch butterflies that make their long migration each year are like the souls returning to their ancestral home. It might just be the biggest homecoming on Earth. And next, there are two monarch migration routes in North America. The eastern, east of the Rocky Mountains, and the western, west of the Rockies. The eastern migration begins as far north as Michigan or southern Canada and goes down to central Mexico to winter over. The western migration begins in southern Canada or Washington state and ends in the coastal areas of California in the San Francisco Bay Area down to southern California and a little into Baja Mexico to winter over. In California in spring, they fly north, and in the fall, south along the inland coast. And next, every fall, generations of monarchs migrate up to 3,000 miles, flying south on the night airstreams to overwinter 4 months in Mexico or the California coast, then north again in early spring. This can take as many as 5 generations of monarchs that live for 2 to 4 weeks each to lay their eggs, then die. Then their caterpillars eat milkweed and grow for 2 weeks, then transform into a chrysalis. In another 2 weeks, the monarch butterfly emerges to continue the journey. This takes about a month for this to happen. Then in fall, the generation that flies south to overwinter lives 8 times longer and flies as much as 10 times further than any other generation. And this is sometimes called the super generation. Next. Corby. Next. So when the monarchs arrive in their southern destination for winter, they cluster on trees to keep warm and fly only when it's above 55 degrees. And this generation has stored fat in their abdomen to last over winter and sip dew for moisture. And they do not migrate, and they do not mate, and they do not reproduce. Their bodies go into diapause until early February or March, when they begin their northward journey as their ancestors have done. And they glide on air currents high in the sky. Each generation lives for 2 to 4 weeks and reproduces and dies, and then the new generation flies on, and they all know which direction to fly. Now, some monarchs are tagged up in Washington state to study their journey, and they have found that one flew from Washington state to UC Davis in 5 days, and that's over 100 miles a day. Pretty amazing. Next. And they sip nectar along the way. And this is on the buddea, the butterfly bush. Next. And their antennae sense the time of day with daylight and heat, and they know when to begin moving south for winter. Next. Genetics pass these skills on to each new generation. The monarch has a built-in sun compass that orients it to the direction to fly. They need to go either north or south. And decreasing day lengths, cooler temperatures, and the aging native monarch milkweed, the native milkweed tells them that it's time to head south for winter climates. They fly to where their ancestors were born a year ago. And how each generation knows where to migrate and find the habitat of its ancestors is a complete mystery. Next. In our region of California, Sonoma County, we do not see monarchs flying north in, well, let's see, this is shows an example of 4 generations. In March and May, they're flying north from either coastal California or Mexico. May and July, they're still going north, new generations. July and August, the ones that came the farthest away are starting to move south. And then we see them in July through mid-October. We see them flying south for their fall winter migration. Next. So it's believed that on this migration, because we do not see them flying north in spring, it's believed in our region, it's believed that they migrate north through the Central Valley and the foothills of the Sierras. We do see them flying south from here from July through mid-October. And the best time to see monarchs in winter are along areas of the California coast where it doesn't freeze. You can search on the web for those sites and call to be sure the monarchs are there. These preserves, there are monarch preserves in Santa Cruz, Pacific Grove, Pismo Beach, and a few others, and you can find those on the web. So life begins for each new generation. The eggs are the size of a tiny head of a pin, as seen here on native narrowleaf milkweed leaves. The eggs hatch as a caterpillar in about 4 days after they're laid. A tiny little black dot comes out and grows into a caterpillar. One female can lay as many as 400 to 500 eggs in her lifetime. Of those, only 1 in 100 may become a butterfly due to weather, parasitical insects, ladybugs, praying mantis eating their eggs, pesticides, and so forth. It's a rough world out there. Next. The caterpillars shed their skin about 4 times. These are called instars as they grow larger. Here, a cat or caterpillar has left its skin on the tent fabric as it crawls away. And we did foster some monarchs in tents, our first and second years of the Monarch Pollinator Garden. And the Zerke Society recommends not fostering monarchs in tents, thinking that it may throw off their migration or make them weaker as not being exposed to the elements. We're very careful to set the monarchs free where their eggs were laid, and they seem to be very strong. Next. So the caterpillars eat milkweed, the leaves, and the stems for about 2 weeks. And this gives them the chemical ingredients in the milkweed, which is that milky substance, to make them toxic to predators, which is their one defense. Next. When a caterpillar starts the metamorphosis phase of becoming a chrysalis, as on the right, it attaches itself to a twig or a leaf, or in this case, the tent fabric, and hangs down from a very tiny little thread that it makes. And then it hangs into a J form. It wiggles out of its skin. And miraculously, and we've seen this, within 12 to 15 minutes, it becomes the chrysalis as on the right. It's just amazing. The skin, they wiggle out of their skin, and you can see it on the right above the chrysalis. It left its skin at the top. Most of the times it falls off. So the chrysalis stage takes 2 weeks for the butterfly to form. Next. So after about 2 weeks, the chrysalis turns from green to very dark black. Then the butterfly will emerge within 24 hours. Can you see the monarch wings inside there on the left? And then the white dots on the black border along the wings. She'll be out within 24 hours. Next. The monarch butterfly pops out of its chrysalis, hangs down for 30 to 90 minutes while fluid is pumped in from its body into its wings. And when the monarch comes out, it looks like a big black bug, and wrapped in a parachute of gold and black, all crinkled up. And then the body pushes the fluid into the wings as they unfold. Next. Then it's ready to fly after drying its wings. They like to fly up into a tree, redwood, sycamore, eucalyptus, pine, whatever's around, and they rest before coming down to sip nectar. Next. So this is one of my friend's first monarchs. Lynn had this one come out. She's a big beauty. On the Tithonia, Mexican sunflower. This plant is 4 feet tall and bears many flowers at once, all summer long. And it's one of the best pollinator plants. Butterflies like to land on open flowers that are flat, and that's called an umbel shape, U-M-B-E-L, think umbrella. And that would be like zinnias, Queen Anne's lace, onions, parsley, anything flat and open. Next. Now this is a anise swallowtail, but you can see lots of legs there on this white cosmo flower. There's one long straight one coming down right into the center of the flower, and she's sipping nectar. Next. So what do monarchs need on their migration? They need flowers, lots of flowers. This is our annual and wildflower patch at the Monarch Pollinator Garden in Sonoma. Next. They need flowers for nectar, lots of flowers. Next. Next. So butterflies get their needed minerals by sipping with their proboscis from a natural mud puddle. Here, this is called a puddler, a shallow dish with compost or rich soil in it that is kept moist. This can be done by putting it near a fine sprayer in your garden or an emitter from an irrigation line. Next. So showy milkweed is one of the native milkweed plants in our region of California. It is Asclepias speciosa. Notice the broad leaves and the kind of spiky pink-white flowers. You can see this plant at Cornerstone, big event center south of Sonoma. Walk through the main gates to the garden, turn left, and you'll see Kate Frey's pollinator garden. And these are a large plant. Next. So here are the two native milkweeds for our region. The narrow leaf on the left, see the very narrow long leaves and tight clusters of flowers. On the right, Asclepias speciosa, the showy, with the spiky flowers and broad leaves. Next. So this is a natural habitat that is beautiful. This is a blackberry patch that was down on the one of the state parks fields, right in town, right off the plaza. And it was destroyed this last year. Neighbor decided that they didn't want that blackberry patch there, and they cut everything down to the ground. And you can see how the narrowleaf milkweed grows up through the blackberries and the pink flowers on top. Lynn found more eggs on these actual narrowleaf milkweed plants than any other in town, and they're gone now. People do things big and small to destroy natural habitats, either out of ignorance or just not caring. Next. This milkweed is sold at local nurseries and should not be. We've asked them to not sell it, and one has agreed, most have not. This plant, which is tropical milkweed, is native to Mexico, not our region. Next. So the Zerke Society is a nonprofit organization to support invertebrates and their habitat. In other words, insects. And through research and experience, that we found that non-native tropical milkweed is a factor in the monarch decline. Tropical milkweed carries a protozoan parasitic disease. Can't pronounce the long Latin name, but it's called OE for short. It is fatal to monarchs that feed on it. Where tropical milkweed is present year-round, monarchs prolong their migratory cycle, thus leading to death by not reaching warmer climates to survive the winter. non-native tropical milkweed can readily naturalize in California and become more prevalent and available to monarchs than the native species, resulting in spreading the OE disease further. Next. So how are the monarchs doing? You can see on the left that in 1997, about 2 decades ago, there were 1.25 million monarchs counted throughout California. The Zerke Society counts 240 forested groves from Santa Cruz down through Southern California. They do account around Thanksgiving and through winter. And you can see, look over on 2019, and it's the same in probably 2020. The last two have been the very most disastrous for monarchs. Next. So efforts to restore habitat loss by planting native milkweed, nectar-producing perennials and wildflowers, and ensuring the preservation of trees are needed to ensure their survival. The reasons for the decline are climate change, habitat loss, devastating impact on all pollinators, swaths of monoculture such as large agriculture and vineyards, which have replaced naturally occurring fields of wildflowers and milkweed, are also contributed to their decrease, along with droughts, fires, and logging in Mexico. Next. Pesticides. We all know those are not good, but here's one that is actually available at nurseries and we may not be aware. Neonicotinoids. If that sounds like nicotine, you're right. Comes from those family of plants. It's a systemic pesticide that is used by plant growers, the wholesalers, and it's, of course, they grow in mass and they want to put something on that kills insects, the bad ones. Well, it does all of them. The plant seeds can be treated with neonics, but for short, they're called neonics, or it is sprayed on the leaves. And neonics are systemic chemicals, meaning they are absorbed by the plant. They're neurotoxic insecticides, meaning they are pesticides designed to kill insects by attaching their nerve cells. So they permanently bind to the insect's nerve cells, overstimulating and destroying them. The insects that are poisoned with these often exhibit uncontrollable shaking or twitching, paralysis, and eventual death. And these are all pollinators, all the good guys, the bees, the butterflies, the ladybugs, and so forth. They harm all insects. And because they are systemic chemicals absorbed into the plant, they can be present in the pollen and nectar, making them toxic to all pollinators that feed on them. And once they're in and on the plant, they cannot be washed off. They'll remain residual to the plant for at least a year, up to 2 years. Next. So what can we do for monarchs and all pollinators? Plant native perennial flowering plants and wildflowers for nectar, and then a water source for nutrients. Grow native milkweed mixed in with other plants, such as salvias and tall plants about their size. Create a pesticide-free and herbicide-free garden. And this is most important. Have a conversation with your nursery about neonics, neonicotinoids, and non-native milkweed, and let them know what you want to purchase. It's amazing how some nurseries are not aware of neonics. Some of the big box retailers have promised, because of public pressure, that they would have their growers take out the neonics from their plants. So check the tags on the plants. And this is something I'm doing. I'm not saying that everyone else should, but I check my avocados and see that they're grown in California. Unfortunately, the drug cartels have found a new cash crop, and it is avocados. And they are cutting down the groves of trees where the monarchs migrate to in winter in order to grow avocado trees. I certainly wouldn't want to harm the good growers of avocados in Mexico, but I'm just voting with my money. So next. So this is a male monarch. We can see by the 2 large dots on the lower wings. That denotes the male, and they have a little bit finer vein work than the females. Next. And this is a female. She doesn't have the black dots. This is pretty hard to see, and her veins are a little bit thicker. It's hard to see when they're flittering around, but if you take a photo with your phone, perhaps you can study them a little bit more later in order to see. Next. And there are a few lookalikes. This is a Viceroy compared to a Monarch. The Viceroy does live throughout North America, but we haven't seen too many here. Has the black line along the lower wing. It's similar in a similar appearance is a protective mechanism for both, and it's called the Müllerian mimicry in creatures. Both types of butterflies may taste bitter to some potential predators, so it's less likely either butterfly will be eaten by the predators of both species. The Viceroy is smaller than the Monarch also. Next. By taking a photo on your phone of a butterfly and sending it to the app iNaturalist, that's small I, capital N, Naturalist, your account will be entered into a database for invertebrate organizations. Now this is the painted lady. She has not the black body, but brownish. Next. Another lookalike is the queen. That is a boy right there. See those two black dots? Another is, next. This is the Gulf fritillary. They all have this beautiful golden color, and there's just a slight difference. So taking a photo will help you to identify. Next. So the Monarch Pollinator Garden in Sonoma began in February of 2018 as a demonstration garden to encourage others to create their pollinator gardens. Wait, you guys, over here. You guys, here. So we are dedicated to seeing a superhighway of pollinator gardens throughout Sonoma Valley and Sonoma County and beyond. Next. The two other principles are, come over here. Come on. This is, get down here. Oh, we can't see you. I've got to go to my slide of myself. Corby, can you take it on to just seeing myself?
Bonnie, you'll have to turn on your camera.
Okay. Unable to start, darn it. It doesn't work.
That's okay. We don't have to get on.
Share screen, would that do it?
It's okay.
Ah, darn.
Another time.
I can't show you. Great. So it's Lynn Luzzy and Cindy Linth. The three of us started this Monarch Pollinator Garden in Sonoma. Next. The garden is behind the First Congregational Church in Sonoma, 252 West Spain Street, right next to the General Vallejo home, Sonoma State Historic Park. And a circle of redwood trees next to the garden is a serene place to visit and open to all. The garden is 900 square feet, about 30 by 30. Next. And we planted these perennial, there's one side is perennial, flowering perennials. And these came up in 3 months from 4-inch pots. They're rooted and beginning to flower. Next. The other side of the garden is annual wildflowers. And this is in July. The garden is in its 3rd year. We have weekly tours in summer. We go out to assist others in creating their gardens, are involved in citizen science, reporting sightings of monarchs to iNaturalist and other organizations, collaborating with monarch organizations and others to help save this amazing creature. Next. So you needn't have a large area to have a pollinator or monarch garden. It can be a planter on a deck or a patio. Mix in some native milkweed with the flowers. Monarchs will find just 2 or 3 native milkweed plants. You've got a wheelbarrow, an old wash tub, some buckets, watering trough, a half wine barrel, or a pot. And be sure to mix in some native milkweed, a couple of plants, and you'll have monarch eggs. Next. Next. So this photo was taken at one of the groves of trees in Mexico when the monarchs start to fly when it warms up. Let's hope that this is a scene that we and future generations will always be able to see. And thank you. Open to questions.
Thank you so much, Bonnie. Corby, it appears that I cannot start my video unless you give me permission. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today, everyone. Don't forget that you can continue to add your questions using that Q&A button below. Before any of you decide that you need to leave now, I do want to share with all of you that you can continue to engage with us. You can follow us on social media. You can on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You can also check out our website, sonomalantras.org. And you can also download our Monarch Butterfly Craft Book, where you can learn how to make papel picado on our website, sonomalantras.org, nature activities, -activities. So don't forget, you can continue to enter your questions for both Abraham and Bonnie using that Q&A button below. So I'll go ahead and start asking you both some of these really great questions that we've been receiving. I saw that Abraham, you already started answering a few, and in case no one has gotten a chance to read it, someone asked about tamales and if there will be any tamales this year in Petaluma.
Will there be monarchs, did you say?
Oh, it was a question to Abraham.
Yeah, on Sunday they will be selling tamales from 11 o'clock to 2 p.m. Tamales, tacos, and pupusas. Yes, yeah. So at the art center.
Great. Another question we received is, where can we get the correct milkweed plant for Sonoma marin?
You can go to your nursery and request native milkweed. If they don't know what that is, you need to find another nursery. Also, we grow milkweed seeds here and we get them out to the public. And there will be information. I believe Sonoma Land Trust will send out an email after this with links about that. So watch for that, but find a good nursery and be sure to say native. And it should be in our region, narrowleaf milkweed and showy milkweed, those two.
Bonnie is correct. We will be sharing some links in our in an email that'll be coming up within just a few weeks or within just a few days, where you can also provide some feedback for us on what you learned and what you thought about the presentation today. Someone else asked, why haven't I seen any monarchs in Guerneville in several years? I have grown milkweed and many pollinator-friendly flowers.
Well, I'd say you're not alone. Our count this year, right now, unofficial count in Sonoma is about 35 monarchs. And people in the past, old timers, have said they used to flock through this valley. You can see how disastrous it's been for the monarchs, very low. Actually, they will be determined, I believe this December, whether they will make the list for endangered species. They're just right above that level. I would say put your flowers out in good sun and an open space so they can fly in. And contact us also. You'll be able to contact us from that email and maybe we can get into more detail.
Thank you, Bonnie. Someone mentioned that people can send a poem or video or photo in honor of the departed, of our dearly departed, on welcome@poetryofremembrance.com. What are other ways, Abraham, that people can celebrate Dia de los Muertos this year?
They can create an altar at home, and you can also reach us by going to our Facebook page. Also, the Petaluma Art Center has information. and you can go in their website also. And but I forgot to say that about the poems. Yeah, John Johnson, who is our coordinator, that's part of the event of Dia de los Muertos celebration, a series of events, and we used to have an evening to share poems about our loved ones and or dedicated to our loved ones. And John Johnson does a very good job. He will do a continuously work on that, and he has set up I think a page on Facebook so that people can share their poems and or writings dedicated to the loved ones, and he will work with that. Yeah, before it was before fires and COVID, we gather in an evening and we shared poems, and then we had also music and food. So there was always a food element involved in all of our events. Yes.
Thank you, Abraham. This one's a question for Bonnie. There's multiple parts to this question. Do monarchs migrate through Sonoma? And if so, when?
Yes, they do. And they on their southern migration, and it's from July through mid-October. And I think we're getting actually the super generation that will be overwintering now, because they need to be at a warm climate by November 1st. That's pretty much the deadline for monarchs to get in a warm place. So July through mid-October, you'll find different generations coming through Sonoma, county of Sonoma. And what can land conservationists do on a larger scale? Well, I have a recommendation. Contact the UC Davis Department of Entomology and ask them to do a study on the northward migration. Where do monarchs migrate? North through California. Is it in the Central Valley, in the Sierras? There's been no definitive study on that. You can donate to the Xerces Society, XERCES. It's a great organization. Monarch Joint Venture, JOINT Joint Venture is another great organization, and go on their websites and search and get more information. I hope that answers.
I think that answered pretty well. Someone else asked, can you please recommend a nursery in the northern Sonoma County, so Healdsburg, that can help to build a pollinator garden?
Oh, yes, the garden club. Which one is that, Cindy?
Flora.
I know, but Windsor Garden Club, they're doing something.
Great.
There is at the Windsor Garden Club.
Halberg.
Look them up. There's a woman there who is doing gardens and promoting that. And also Cal Flora Nursery has a lot of native plants. Cottage gardens in Petaluma may, but I know you want something up north, and I'm not familiar with the nurseries up there. I would call the nurseries and find out what, but Cal Flora has native plants. Also the one about, is Nicotiana plant harmful to monarchs? No, Nicotiana is fine. It's not, it does sound like Neonicotinoids, but it is not. It's just a different plant, and it's a beautiful one.
Someone asked, I saw a monarch in my garden today feeding on zinnias. Is this normal?
Yes, they love zinnias because they're an open umbel shape. And a lot of flowers are not native, but the monarchs, any butterfly can nectar on those flowers. Those are a great flower for pollinators.
Someone also asked, I think I heard that you help others create a pollinator garden. How about public schools?
Yes, Cindy Length is our outreach for national and local organizations and the city. She got the mayor of Sonoma to sign the Monarch Pledge, and so that no pesticides in the town of Sonoma, and encouraging schools and vineyards, everyone to grow pollinator gardens. So Could you repeat that one, Muriel? I don't know that I answered the whole question. What?
They asked if you also help public schools create pollinator gardens.
We have 10 schools in Sonoma Valley, maybe even 11 now, that have their own gardens and they grow vegetables. They've been a little reluctant to grow the milkweed because the sappy substance can be toxic if you get it in your eyes. So it's worrisome to have around children sometimes unless you really are careful. So I think that's why they haven't done that. But a pollinator garden is great. Grow flowers in with your vegetables. And yes, we want to, that's our next project next year, is to get it into get the vineyard people to grow a pollinator garden separate from their vineyards and get the schools to grow more flowers in the vegetables. Absolutely. We need to do that. Thank you for the prompt again.
There was another question that asked, let me see if I can find it again. Why can't the monarch just stay in coastal California? Why must they migrate?
Well, they do stay in coastal California, along the coast, really along the coast where it doesn't freeze. They don't typically go, I don't think they go all the way to Mexico. Man, if I was a monarch, I wouldn't want to go that far if I've got a good habitat on the coast. It's the eastern monarchs that fly all the way past Texas down into central Mexico, they found. And our monarchs on the west of the Rockies seem to stay on coastal California because it doesn't freeze. It's warm enough for them to survive. And then when it's above 55 degrees, they can get out and fly and get some moisture. And yeah, they do stay right along the California coast, and you can go to see them.
And along with their migration, do monarchs have the longest migration pattern, and why?
The longest, there is a butterfly that goes from Europe down into the desert of Africa I've seen. There is a, what is the name of that PBS video?
The painted lady flies.
Sex, Lives, and
Butterflies.
Painted lady.
Sex, lives, and butterflies.
Sex, Lives, and Butterflies or something on PBS, and it shows the whole migration. And it was the painted lady that flew all that way. I think they might have the longest migration. But monarchs are right up there, 3,000 miles round trip. My gosh, think of that little, so, Jiminy's.
This question is for Abraham. Abraham, have you seen the monarch butterflies in Mexico? Oh, you're muted.
My wife went. I couldn't go, and she said that yeah, she was impressed, and she wants to take me, but yeah, we haven't made arrangements this year. She went two years ago, but I've seen butterfly. I mean, monarchs in my backyard, so I'm very excited when I see them, and I want to plant some milkweed also.
Good, yay.
That's a good thing. We're all learning more about the milkweed here. Is it better to plant milkweed in a container or into the ground? And when is the best time to plant the seeds?
Well, Lynn plants the milkweed seeds in February, isn't it, Lynn? Yeah, in 4-inch pots, and you have to have a nice warm environment. She does have a greenhouse, a warm spot in a sunny window or something in the home. And then when they get up, probably 4 to 6 inches tall, you can get them in the ground. They come up late though. They're one of the later plants. And that's why I know that the monarchs don't migrate north through California, because these native milkweeds are late. They're not really fully vital till, what do you think? Probably July,
August, yeah.
July and August. So for the migration south. So they will grow the first year, they won't flower probably. And they die back every winter. So you need to put a stake in the ground, a little stick, so that you know where you planted them in the ground, so that you don't dig them up or destroy them. And they'll be coming up quite late. You might not see them pop out of the ground till March or April. But they grow back. They are a perennial.
Is native milkweed the best to plant for monarchs?
It's the only one that they lay their eggs on. Is the native milkweed. They will lay them on the tropical milkweed, and that's the problem. We've got to get rid of that tropical milkweed. It is not native to our area, and it is toxic to the plants. It grows that awful stuff on them. So, yeah.
Bonnie, here's another question for you. One of the attendees says that they're near Seattle and would like to know what the Monarchs would like to have in a backyard suburban garden there. Also, will there be any Monarchs laying eggs that far north in Seattle?
Yes, they will. Some of them come down from Canada and even north of Seattle on their migration south. So, and even their migration north. So you'll get them both ways, I imagine. Yes, absolutely. Have a garden. What was the first part of the question? I'm sorry, I don't see it up here, so I can't see it. Seattle.
What can you grow in a suburban garden in Seattle to help the monarch butterfly?
Seattle, boy, we've got lots of rain. You can have beautiful flowers, just wildflowers, native plants, cultivars, like stuff you buy at the nursery. Just be sure it has no pesticides on it. And if you grow seeds, look on the bottom of the packet. It'll say grown untreated seeds. These trees have not been treated, and that means they haven't got neonicotinoids treated on them. So be sure your seeds, and if you're not sure, ask the nursery person. And if they don't know, you know what to do. Tell them find out or go find another nursery. The nurseries need to step up. They really haven't done their job for pollinators and nature. And they typically sell what sells, what people ask for. And that's not always the best thing for our land. So yeah, any flower in your area, you've got a perfect habitat. As long as it's full sun, mostly sun. You don't want to plant milkweed out in hot sun. They like to grow in amongst other plants. And if they're all by themselves, they attract the oleander aphid, which is yellow, and it coats the plant. They're just covered, the stems, and it saps the strength of the plant. We can't even use their seeds when they've been attacked by that. So when they're planted in with other plants, kind of hide them in there out in the sunny area, then it doesn't attract so many of the aphids, and the ladybugs take care of them. Of course, the ladybugs might eat the monarch eggs too, but that's nature. You take your chances. So yeah, Seattle's a great place. And you will see monarchs eggs on your native milkweeds. And I don't know what your native milkweed is up in Seattle. You'll have to check with your nurse or check with the Zerke Society. And they have a thing on they have the most wonderful website. You can navigate all around and find the best plants for your area and everything. XERCES Society. Thank you.
There's also a question that someone posed, which I think is on a lot of people's minds. They have heard that milkweed can be toxic to animal companions. Is there a safe way to grow it?
Yes, it is. You don't want to have it near a pasture land where there's cattle and sheep and so forth. It gets on their muzzle and coats them, the milky substance. They typically don't eat it. It tastes awful. They can get a little toxic if they start to eat it, but generally they'll avoid it. So if you grow milkweed, when the seeds happen and they grow, it's a long seed and turns brown. When it starts to turn brown, pick it and then let it dry and get the seeds out, because what happens is the little dark seeds it's like they have wings. I mean, it's like cotton fabric, flower, fluffy stuff, and they fly everywhere, and there's hundreds in each one of the seed pods. You don't want it to go in your neighbor's yard if they don't want it, or out in a pasture somewhere. So be sure to snip off the seeds when they start to turn brown, and use the seeds for next year and give away to your friends.
This question is for Abraham. What is the difference between November 1st and November 2nd during Dia de los Muertos?
That's a good question. Yeah, there's some of the celebrations. We start on the 31st, October 31st. The tradition for the altar is you celebrate the kids, the small children who have died. Then November 1st, you celebrate the people who was killed in a tragic accident or for or long uh, time with a disease, or he was very ill for a long time. And then November 2nd, then you celebrate everybody. Yeah, and then on November 2nd, you invite your friends, your neighbors, your family, and to share the food that you put on the altar. So you make mole, you make rice, you make beans, you make tacos, tamales, everything, and then you invite your friends. So nobody celebrates alone because you're celebrating your family and your loved ones. Yeah, that's yeah. Thank you. That's a good question.
That was a very good question. So another question about Dia de los Muertos, Abraham, is what traditions from the Aztec celebration continue today? You mentioned the altar. What are some other traditions that you know of that still continue?
Well, in different parts of Mexico, they celebrate sometimes differently, and you create the altar even differently. And for the around Mexico City, you create an altar in 3 layers, and that's connected to Christianity. The first layer is the living, and then the second layer is the purgatory, where all the after you die, they believe that you have to work for your sanctification, and then the third layer is heaven. So if you already have your loved one, you put their pictures all the way to the top. Don't don't put them on the middle because otherwise they're gonna get mad. They have to work to reach for heaven. And then the Oaxacan culture, they have the tradition of creating an arch. That means, and they create a door, from the spiritual world to the living. Yeah, so they different, and then the Mayan also they have different traditions. They also bring the butterflies because when the warriors, in the ancient Mayan, they believe that the warriors, when after they die, they spend like 10 days with the god of the sun, and then after those 10 days, they became monarch butterflies. And but you also prepare the food that is connected to that culture of that region. So for the Mayan, you make cochinita pibil, you make a little like sopes and other Mayan cebollita con red onion with habanero chile and little vinegar and lemon and salt. It's very good. So for the Oaxacan, you make Oaxaca mole, and you make it the mole, and you can leave the mole homemade, from grinding the peanuts and the different seeds, the different chiles, chocolate, and sesame seed, mm, different other herbs, and even plantain you put in the mole, and different types of there are different types of moles, but in the Oaxacan, you don't put the meat, you don't put any meat, so the mole will stay, uh, will stay well and edible after a few days, no matter how long you put it, because it doesn't have any meat, it's just vegetable. So that's very interesting. Yeah. So you
You're
leave it.
making me hungry, Abraham. We have time for one more question. This one's for Bonnie. Someone says, my narrow leaf milkweed got a ton of small yellow aphids. Does this harm the plant or prevent the monarchs from laying their eggs?
it is detrimental to the plant. It saps the plant, it just really harms the plant. What we do is rub them off. You get yellow fingers that way. You can take a spray of water and do that. You can use an insecticidal soap is called, if you use something like Dr. Bronner's mild soap, you don't want to use your dish detergent, and mix a tablespoon in a sprayer and spray it on, but you cannot do that after July or during July on, because that's when the monarchs are laying their eggs, and if you spray them, you will also spray the eggs, and that will harm them. So just early in the season, you can get rid of them, but the best way to prevent that is plant them in amongst other plants, and you will find that, don't put them out in the open in a garden, and you'll find that you'll have a lot less aphids on there. There's also a black and orange milkweed beetle that will be on there. Just take a bag and flick them off, and then do what you want with that bag. I won't tell you. And they harm the plant, take the nutrients out also. So yeah, yellow milkweed, the milkweed aphids are a problem, but you can find ways to rub them off or something.
Thank you, Bonnie and Abraham, so much for answering so many questions and providing so much knowledge to us. And I want to thank everyone too for joining us today and being here with us to learn about Dia de los Muertos and the monarch butterfly and how you can help. Oh. It is very important that we do engage with nature still, even during these times. Sonoma Land Trust is a nonprofit organization, which means we rely on donations of any size from individuals like you, businesses, foundations, to make sure that our work is possible. If you like what you heard today, please consider donating. Your gift helps support land protection, preservation, and sharing nature with the community. To make a donation online to Sonoma Land Trust, visit sonomalandtrust.org and click the donate button. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you, Abraham, and thank you, Bonnie, so much for joining us.
Thank you, Sonoma Land Trust.
Thank you for coming.
Everyone, you'll be able to access the presentation tonight too. In just a few days, we'll be sharing it again on YouTube. Goodbye, everyone. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.